All right, welcome to the third standard on circles, which is the equation of a circle. So the equation of the circle comes from Pythagorean theorem, which I've drawn here for you. A right triangle, the two legs, you square them, you add them together, and they equal the square of the hypotenuse. That's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now the equation of a circle is basically the same thing, but it's a right triangle inside of a circle. So the concept is the same here, but instead of A, B, and C, we're going to use X, Y, and R. X stands for the X coordinate, Y stands for the Y coordinate of a point on the circle, and R stands for radius. So if the point 3, 4 is on the circle, to plot that point, you'd have to go left 3 spaces and up 4 spaces. So the length of X would be 3, the length of Y would be 4. You square those two numbers, which I've done here. I substituted them into the equation. You get 9 plus 16 equals 25. So 25 is the radius squared, which means 5 is the radius. You take the square root of both sides. So this is the equation of a circle when the center is at the origin. Well, now the center's not always going to be at the origin. But if it is, it's just a simple Pythagorean theorem, basically, is where it comes from. Now, the homework for tonight, the center is not going to be at the origin. So here's two examples of when the center is not at the origin. So this first one, I put the center at the point 2, -1, and I'm telling you that the radius is 3. So there's our circle with a center not at the origin and a radius 3. Now this becomes the equation of the circle. It's still x squared y squared equals r squared, but now your x squared is in parentheses and you have to add a number in there. Same with the y squared. It's the y, you're squaring the parentheses, and inside the parentheses there's a number in there. Well, where do those numbers come from? They come from the center. So the center is 2, -1, so you use 2 and 1. Now the tricky part with this is that a lot of people want to say x plus 2 and y minus 1 because x is positive 2 and y is -1. But in the equation of the circle, it's the opposite. So you're going to have to get used to that because that always is causing problems for students because they forget that it's the opposite sign. So if it's a positive 2x coordinate for your center, then you have to do -2. If it's a -1 for your y coordinate of the center, then you have to do +1. So these signs are going to be opposite of what your center is. And then that's it. Then you substitute those in. You square your radius because the equation is radius squared and 3 squared is 9. And that is your final answer. If it gives you half the problems on the homework are going to give you a center and give you a radius and say write the equation of the circle. So if they give you 2, -1 as your center and 3 as your radius, then that's your answer. X minus 2 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 9. That's the equation of a circle. Now they might work backwards. The other half of the problems are going to be working backwards, where they give you the equation first and you have to figure out what the center and the radius are. So they're both pretty similar problems. It's either given center and radius, write the equation, or given the equation, find center and radius. So here's your example of an equation. X plus 5 quantity squared y minus 3 quantity squared equals 49, and you have to work backwards to figure out what the center and the radius are. Well, the center is always going to be the x coordinate and the y coordinate, so it's 5 and -3, but remember, it's the opposite. The equation always changes the sign of the center, so you have to change those signs. So the center is actually -5, +3. So that's really the only tricky part to tonight's problems is remember when it comes to the center and the equation of a circle that the signs are changed. So if the equation is x plus 5, your center is -5. If the equation is y minus 3, your center is +3. So that's your center, the point -5, 3. And then you just take the square root of whatever number they give you in the equation, and that's your radius. So the radius is 7. And that's it. So that's your introduction to the equation of a circle. That'll get you through tonight's problems. And then the next couple nights, it's really more of the same. It all has to do with center and radius, but they'll ask you to write the equation of a circle, and you'll have to figure out what the center and radius are first, and then put them into the equation. Tonight, they're just going to give you the center and the radius, pretty easy. Tomorrow, the next couple days, you'll have to figure out what they are, either from a graph or from a center and a point on the circle. So I'll get I'll explain how to do those in the videos in the upcoming days, tomorrow and Wednesday. And then at the end of the week, we're going to have to complete the square to come up with the equation of a circle. So that's the most complicated part of this standard, is going to be at the end of the week. We completed the square a little bit last year in algebra, and I have a video already put together for completing the square that I'm showing to the algebra students right now. So I'm going to upload that towards the end of the week, refresh you on how to complete the square, and then probably next week I'll show you how to use completing the square to write the equation of a circle. But for now, pretty basic.